Hey everyone, it's Charles here again. I'm here to talk about a topic called absolute and relative cell referencing. Um, it's not really a formula, but it's more of a technique that you will need to know when you're creating your formulas in spreadsheets, Microsoft Excel, or any other spreadsheet that you're using. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly talk about what absolute cell referencing is, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so let's have a look at the quick objectives. So the main thing that we're going to be looking at, what would be great, is for you to describe the concepts of relative and absolute cell referencing, and it will be excellent if you can apply this concept in a task and complete all the exercises in the actual spreadsheet itself. Okay, so let's have a quick look now then. So let's cut to the chase. The basic thing is an absolute reference. What is it? It allows a cell reference to remain the same as its copy or pasted. And I'll explain to you very briefly what I mean by that. Okay, so you can get this handout from me at any time. It's a handout that I created for Excel, and it's available by an email. It has all the topics that you'll need to know, and hopefully very easy to follow. So, absolute to understand absolute cell referencing, we need to go back a little bit and talk about what relative cell referencing is. And all relative cell referencing is it simply means the copying of a formula or a function to relative cells on a spreadsheet. For example, in the spreadsheet below, the cell D6, total visits, I am calculating the daily visits plus the weekend visits. So if you look down here, you'll see that I've created a basic formula to add these two cells together, 4,939. And this is the formula. You can see that the cell reference B5 plus C5 will give me the answer. Now, these two cells you can say are relatives because A, they're next to each other, and B, when I'm going to copy this down, so what I will do, what you will normally do with relative cell referencing, is to just drag the formula down so you don't have to do it more than once. And you should get all your answers filled out. Just grab the corner of the cell, the bottom right corner, the fill handle, and you can just drag the formulas down. It's relative cell referencing because these cells are all relative to each other. So the computer knows, or the program rather, knows that B5 needs to become B6, and B6 will become B7. So it will create this formula for you automatically. So B5 plus C5 will become B6 plus C6, and so forth. And this works really well when cells are both next to each other and you can drag them down and they both relate to each other in that sense. They're both coming down at the same time. It's relative cell referencing. So you can think of these as neighbors. B5 is a neighbor of B6, and the computer knows that all too well. Now, when we're talking about absolute cell referencing, things change a little bit. In absolute cell referencing, it is similar to relative cell referencing. However, in relative cell referencings always change. And in absolute cell referencing, you are able to freeze one or more cell references so its value doesn't change. And what that means is that if we go back to our spreadsheet here, it means that one of these cell references is not meant to be copied down. It needs to stay in one place. But this isn't the right spreadsheet to show you that. So what I'll do, let's take a look at another example. Here you can see I have two sets of ideas going on here. If you look at the first one, you can see that I'm going to create a basic formula equals B3 plus C3 and then press enter. Okay? Now, this is relative cell referencing because I can simply grab the handle here and just copy it down. Okay? The computer knows that it's relative cell referencing. These references are all relative to each other. So it just copies down, drops down a reference each time. Very easily done. And that's easy. Both cells are neighbors, basically. If you look over here, the formula we need to create for this one is we need to multiply 15 grand by 12 because this is basically the formula to get us this answer. Just a bit of maths. Equals, we click on the 15 grand, which is G2. Yeah, the cell address is D2, and we multiply that by 12. Now we have created this formula here. However, we cannot use this formula to work out the others in a relative way, because if we attempt to do that, what happens? You get error codes, and that's because G2 is a number in a specific or an absolute position. It's not going anywhere. I mean, this cell is basically on self-isolation. Okay, you know, this cell is going nowhere. So if you look at the actual formula, what happens when we copy this down? G2 thinks that we want to go downwards, so it becomes G3 and G4, and of course there are no numbers in those cells, just days. Okay, so what we need to do, there's a technique for us to freeze this cell absolutely in place, and what we need to do, and please make a note of this, everyone, we need to double click the cell address, and we need to press the F4 key on your keyboard. Okay, sometimes that doesn't work because it's all to do with how the function keys are set up, but 9 out of 10 times it will work. Okay, so you can see that this is absolutely locked. So what we're doing now, we're telling the computer that when we copy this formula down, yeah, the number in G2 is going nowhere, and we can see that if we click in the second cell, G2 is still locked. It's not G3 because we told the computer you need to freeze this cell. So it's still G2. And that is how we can use one cell reference in our formulas without changing this value. Okay, now bear in mind the applications of this. You know, you can have a VAT number in one place. You can have a percentage score of a mark that needs to be done. That's not going anywhere. It's only in one cell. You need to be able to access or reference that cell and lock it in place. And that is what absolute cell referencing is all about, okay? So what I'll do, we'll just look at one or two examples, and then I would like you to complete the rest of this worksheet. And there might be another task in addition to that. Okay, so this is the first of a few videos on level 2 formulas that you need to know for your ICT Excel level 2 exam. And I recommend this is the first one you need to watch before you do the if function and before you do the VLOOKUP function. Okay, so let's look at another example. So the question is a very simple one. Complete the task in C2 and apply absolute cell referencing to enable the accurate copying of this formula to the rest of the cells. So what we're going to do is we're going to do equals, we're going to create our formula equals. Obviously, we need to multiply this to find out the total income. So we click on A2. Very basic example, this one. I'll click on that one. So A2 plus B2. Now, before we press enter, what needs to be done here? What cell reference do we need to freeze so that we can reference it so when we copy it down to the others? Okay, I'm guessing you're saying A2, okay? So we highlight the A2 and we press F4. Okay, now that is pretty much safe to copy down to the rest of the to the cells. Okay, so I hope you understand that very well, and it was, you know, please pause this video and make notes, or replay it, make some more notes. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, you know, when you get this worksheet, complete these other two worksheet tabs, Absolute 1 and Absolute 2. Okay, and then once you completed that, I will, you know, I would say that, yeah, you understand absolute cell referencing. Okay, so thank you guys, and I'll see you soon in another video.